All right, everyone, if we could go ahead and make your way back to your seats. We're going to go ahead and get started. This next panel is regarding workforce development. By show of hands, who all is hiring now? We got a show of hands. I got 2, 3 people, 4, 5, 6 different companies hiring. And I'm sure you find everybody you need, right? Are they lined up out the door? Who has that situation? Raise your hand. They're lined up out the door. Good deal. Oh, they're not. Well, that's a common occurrence. And we have a lot of job openings here just within the city of Marshall itself, within the greater area, and not quite enough people to fill them, and sometimes some misalignment of skills. So we're going to talk about that and more. First of all, I want to introduce our panel. Again, I'm Rush Harris with the Marshall Economic Development Corporation. Down on the end, we have Chuck Vanderbilt. He is with the East Texas Council of Governments. Barton, Provost with Texas State Technical College. I'm sorry, y'all didn't line up according to this thing, did you? And I jumped right over Dr. Joanne Scales, who is the VP of Academic Affairs with Wiley College, along with J.C. Kester, owner-operator Thumper Fab, amongst another business, Jackrabbit Off-Road, and probably some others. Our favorite serial entrepreneur around here. So I just want to give an opportunity real quick for you to just give a quick intro of yourself, and what are your just first gut reactions about the modern day workforce issues or benefits?
Sure. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'm JC with Thumper Fab, Jackrabbit Off-Road, Royalty Well Service. We've had, I've been involved in a lot of different businesses, from startups to established businesses in the service sector, retail, and now manufacturing. So it's without all of them, though, it takes people. So everything that we do can be accomplished a lot more effectively with a great team. And team building and finding those right people are a constant challenge. We're constantly working on educating ourselves on how to find people or how to build that team so that we can be successful in what we're trying to do with each one of these businesses. So throughout that, there's a lot of local resources here, whether it be TSTC, Wiley, ETBU, a lot of the universities and all that we have here as great local resources for new talent, but working to really educate ourselves as well with other businesses and what they look for and how they attract talent. So throughout, and this goes down to, again, it's really about that team. That team of people is what really allows you to accomplish, regardless of what business you're trying to start up or you currently have. That team of people can really help you to achieve those goals. So how do you foster that environment? How do you find them in the first place? A lot of those, we're constantly educating ourselves as well to continue to do that. So, yeah, that's probably the short version of it. So.
We are a technical college, after all, yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bart Day. As Rush said, I'm Provost at TSTC's Marshall campus. I'm a retired Air Force guy. Any vets in the audience? I don't have glasses on, so I can't see you anyway, but I'll hold a hand up. Retired in 12, been with TSTC for, since about 90 days after I retired. I think I would equate running a campus to really kind of a small business atmosphere. And I'll take 2 notes. I drew a lot from the prior panel. Everything that you're doing, just like we do on a campus, is all about relationships and resources. And TSTC is absolutely here to be a resource to you and help build those relationships that can gain you more resources. So I'm really glad to be a part of the panel today and look forward to the discussion. I'll be short, sweet, and pass this thing off. I look forward to talking.
Short and sweet is always awesome, right? Joanne Scales, Vice President of Academic Affairs at Wiley College. And I'll echo what my panel members are saying, but one thing JC said that I really want to hone in on is assessing the needs of your institution. It's one thing to know that there's challenges out there and skills gaps or finding the right employer for the job, But sometimes that takes assessing the needs of your institution. What skills are required to do the job? What changing trends are emerging that we need to get on the forefront of? And so finding the need or filling the needs is a two-way street, right? You have to know what you need and make sure you have the right skills and equipment or technology to fulfill that need, but also knowing what trends that you're looking for and can possibly train for. And that could be curricular changes, right? That could be, are your degree plans up to date with what employers are looking for? And so it's so multifaceted. And so discussions like this, it's really important to find out, are institutions playing their part in helping the next generation of workforce demands, and as well as our industries assessing enough on the skills required for institutions to give you what you need. So I'll try to be short and sweet, but I'm a pastor's child, so if you need to take the mic from me at any moment, it's fine.
Good morning, my name is Chuck Vanderbilt. I'm with the East Texas Council of Governments. I'm the Community and Economic Development Manager within the Workforce and Economic Development Division at ETCOG. What I really do is work to help unlock federal, state funds so that businesses can start, so businesses can grow, and that means creating jobs and adding to the workforce and creating quality jobs for the workforce. My office is one of those resources that you want to have, whether it's through the SBA, a revolving loan fund, some great workforce programs that I'll speak on more that help really unlock some dollars, which, again, I think time and money are the two most important things for you. So, really want to make sure that you're aware of some of the programming available specifically for workforce so that you can leverage those dollars and create those jobs and be successful in your business.
I'm just going to take this mic. This is mine. Y'all get those. Hey, I know we've got kind of a mix here, right? We've got some educators and we've got some facilitators of funding and programs more on an institutional level, right? But you all have to hire and supposedly fire people, right, on occasion. What problems do you face within your own institutions on that, in employing your own workforce? How do you attract those folks?
I'll start. I got the mic. So, I think one of the challenges that I've seen, and I'm sure some of you have experienced this as well, is a deficiency in soft skills. And it's the trends that we see today were not the trends 10 years ago, right? So the workforce development landscape is forever changing, and it's changing rapidly. And so having individuals that are qualified to meet our technology demands, communication skills, emotional intelligence, there's just so many soft skill challenges that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. And it's not just with the employees, it could be with our customers who are our students. And so making sure that the training resources needed are there to not only equip what we're looking for, but to equip our students to go out and give providers or employers what they need. And so I think that's a challenge for a lot of institutions is, you take your students and you meet them where they are, right? It's your job to equip them for the workforce. But with the workforce ever changing and industries trying hard to keep up with that change, that's a constant challenge. It's kind of a revolving issue that I notice a lot of industries are facing. But it also oftentimes leads to a hiring mismatch, if that's the best way to put it.
I'll echo a piece of that. We do a lot of specialized workforce training, and I would encourage all of you, if you have an opportunity to examine your workforce and find a shortfall out there somewhere that we might be able to answer, please give us a shout, or any of my fine colleagues that do the same darn thing we do. But I'll tell you, when we are contacted by an employer, it is almost 100% of the time that they ask for a piece of that training to include soft skills. So if you are seeing a shortfall in your employees, your teammates' abilities to deal with humans on what we would call, I suppose, an acceptable basis, you are not alone. So I think that's become sadly a mainstay. So don't think you're alone in the woods there.
I'm going to speak. Oh, this one? Well, maybe that one works. Can you hear me? Okay. I'll speak to the attract part of that question initially. So I think a lot, especially in this day and age with social media, yeah, so, you see a lot, and by the show of hands that were in here earlier, I mean, a lot of us are looking for people. A lot of us are looking to grow the organization. So we're trying to attract. And on the employee side of that, they're trying to connect. So they want to be a part of an organization. Of course, hey, money is a great motivator for everybody, but there's a lot of things. You want to be a part of something that you feel you can contribute to, that you're excited about. I mean, you're going to go to work and spend a majority of your life with this business and with these people that are around you. So you want to be a part of that. You want to be feel like you can contribute. So again, on the social media side, I think a lot of the attract part, I can't think of a small business in today's age that should not be on social media. That's an opportunity, a great opportunity, not only for you to find customers, but for you to find employees. And I'm not saying that you go out there and necessarily have to put ads out there for the open positions that you have. It's a way for those employees to feel like they can connect with you as the business, so they can see what the business does day in and day out. For example, on the manufacturing floor at the Thumper Fab, we'll do daily lives. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, we're on Twitter. I mean, we're on all the platforms so that we can connect with ultimately our customers that we want to make sales with. But again, those that are in the industry and people that we want to attract, the talent we want to attract. So we'll go out and do lives on the production floor. Hey, here's what we're working on today. Here's how we're building it. Here's how we're doing it. Here's some of the design work that's going on in the background. Some of the cool stuff that you really don't get to see. I mean, you get to see a product at the end of the day, or you get to see the benefits of that service that you're providing. But getting to really see something being made or the process behind it, and that can be fun too. And for that employee that's looking to go to an organization, when they show up for a first interview, a lot of them have seen that. We ask about, hey, have you seen, or a lot of times we don't even have to ask that, sorry. A lot of times they say, hey, we've seen what you've been building, we've seen what you're doing. I feel like I already fit. This is where I want to be. This is how I think I can contribute for really whatever position we're looking for. So, hey, being on social media in this day and age is really important.
I'll just add a couple of things, really, and I think maybe this focuses more on retention and attraction and retention, but transportation is an issue for a lot of employers. The East Texas Council of Governments has GoBus, which is a solution for larger employers or for employees that don't have reliable transportation. It's a low-cost mode of transportation for them that's run through the Council of Governments. Another issue is childcare. For some folks, it's more cost-effective to stay home with the kids than it is to get a job and pay for childcare. So through ETCOG, there is childcare services that can help subsidize those childcare payments so that it makes it financially reasonable for that person to then apply for a job and go to work. The last thing I'd like to mention is we all have issues that come up, car breaks down, medical issues. We see a lot with employers that those employees tend to go to payday lending, title lending type places. We have a program that is an alternative that employers can offer to their employees so that when those instances come up, they can get $1,000, it's payroll deducted, there's no collateral, there's no credit check, but it prevents them from going to the payday or title lender and getting stuck in a cycle that they can then not get out of. So those are three issues that I see kind of across the board for our region that hit your existing employees on a regular basis. Is it a transportation issue? Is it a childcare issue? Or those emergencies that come up and they don't have that savings account to get them through that emergency. So those are three different things through the Council of Governments that can really assist your employees with getting over those obstacles when they do hit.
So let me follow up with you first, Chuck, on that. So childcare, we hear it over and over. There's not available spots for kids. There's 100 people waiting lists. You can't hire somebody because they're now at home trying to raise a family. what can a small business of 5 or 6 employees, 10, maybe even 20, 50, what can they do to incentivize to prospective employees that their children are going to be taken care of? I mean, what can they engage in? Do they need to get with like their chamber or their EDC to make sure that there are programs in place with existing providers to increase capacity for children, or can they apply for something to get money to add as an extra carrot for the employee that they can?
Really, as I understand it, it's for the end user. There is a subsidy for the parent that will pay for a portion of the child care service that they enroll in. Really, I think the big thing that an employer can do is make sure that their employees are aware through whether it's human resources about it's the programs and the resources that are available. Keith Huddleston, you want to raise your hand back there? He's from the workforce division there and works directly with child care and works with the child care centers in becoming Texas Rising Stars so that they're high quality child care centers. And you're right, there is a need. There is a gap there. We need more child care centers, more TRS child care centers. So Keith and our team's focus is really trying to attract more child care providers, whether that's a facility, whether that's in-home care. It's really trying to meet the need with the resources that are available.
So that's TRS, Texas Rising Star, correct?
Yes.
With child care. If you have questions about that, make sure you talk to Workforce Solutions at this next break.
Yes.
And JC, I wanted to follow up on something. So social media for a lot of us is maybe Facebook, right? Particularly if you're my age, older. So there's what do you do on TikTok? What do you do? How do you use Snapchat, right? So a lot of the people in your upper management are thinking, well, how do we haven't used this. How do I know my message isn't going into a black hole somewhere? How do I actually measure the results for my dollar? Can you give some guidance, not necessarily on each individual one, but is there some type of service our communities could be providing to educate people on that?
Well, in the most simplistic form, across all platforms, it's really just about storytelling. It's really just about telling either your story as the business owner or your story as the company, and just it really allows a great platform for you to do that in a way that's not an advertisement, in a way that's not a billboard, in a way that's not something incredibly costly, a TV commercial or something like that, that allows you to do this at no cost, and just put your story out there, put your product out there, put yourself out there. It's intimidating. It's incredibly vital to do it. Like I said, the stuff that you do day in and day out, you're thinking, man, nobody wants to watch me do this. Some of the most popular videos out there are people making a recipe or people unboxing an iPhone or just an unboxing video in general. You think, man, that's boring. Those are some of the most watched videos out there. So and people love, on the recipe side, they love being able to see how it's made. Oh, it looks like if they want to buy your product, they like being able to see, man, there's a story behind it. They feel more connected to it, visually. So if it's a service, the same thing goes. They say, man, there's a lot that goes in to them providing this service to me. That's who I want to do business with. And on the employee side, man, I really want to be a part of that organization, or want to work there. So social media it's been a great tool for us, but we use it that way. We use it as a tool to get our story out there in a very cost-effective manner. I mean, it's free to sign up to get an account. You don't have to pay for advertising. There's definitely that opportunity to it. But as one of the panelists up here said earlier, the marketing side of it can be incredibly costly. It can be incredibly rewarding, but it definitely helps to have somebody that knows what they're doing there. So definitely seek some guidance there on the marketing side. But that's really when you want to go and expand your reach and expand your business there. So,
Thank you. Any other comments on that? I want to get into a topic that's just become very popular since COVID. It's remote workers. So from the standpoint of hiring, I'd love to hear your perspective on, do you hire remote workers? Or from the educational standpoint, are you educating people to be remote workers? Also, do you think it's here to stay?
I'll tell you, I'm not a fan of the whole remote work thing, and I'll tell you why. I may be the lone tree in the woods here, but when I got the opportunity to run the campus here, we've got about 100 employees, and it was my mission in life to make that 100 employees a family. And you know, we can talk about retention and all those things and the attraction to come work for any organization, but I literally spent hours upon hours walking, talking, primarily listening, honestly, and cooking. You would be surprised. When you cook, they will come. So I flip burgers, I cook hot dogs, we make stuff. I tell folks all the time, you know, we're really good at this whole education thing, but what we really do is eat. But that builds a family. And when COVID hit and everybody disappeared and then slowly started trickling back, we've still got folks who are remote. I miss them. I love all of them. And we've hired more folks that are remote, and just for some, it fits them well. They love it. They prosper that way, and I get it. But maintaining that family atmosphere is very, very difficult with remote folks. So what we've done is try to continue to maintain that atmosphere by hosting events that will draw folks in from whatever their remote location may be to come to campus and hang out with their buds, see the students, come to graduation. You know, if you don't get chills when you see a kid first in their family ever to get a college certificate or degree, if it doesn't put some chills up the back of your neck, you're probably in the wrong line of work. But experience those milestones with an organization, no matter what those milestones may be, but be a part of the family. So I think is remote work here to stay? Probably. But it's very difficult to maintain the family atmosphere while doing that. So my best advice would be give the folks the tools to be successful at it, support them in every possible way you can, but try to maintain that family connection somehow, whatever that may be. Cooking, I still would insist, is really a good one.
Well, the next time you cook, just make sure you send an invite. Is remote employment here to stay? You know, it's been an actual topic on our campus for quite some time, and I strongly believe it is. But we've had to learn how to adapt and also how to use it as a method of incentivizing. We have employers who, allowing them to work remotely, aided in some of the challenges you spoke about earlier, Chuck. We've had, I also had an issue with it as well. I'm not a fan of it. However, to see the employee who said, well, this helps me eliminate the transportation challenges or the child care challenges. It gives you a different perspective of how important remote working or remote teaching and learning can be. And so we've adapted it a bit to use it as a method of incentivizing. It's aided us in finding the right employee sometimes. Sometimes you just have to reach beyond the scope of where you're searching. And so it helped in that perspective. We've also used it as a method of training, right? You know, it's great to say you want to have that family atmosphere. And so finding that balance between how to include our online employees in some of our on-campus activities or events for the campus has been a challenge, but we're finding ways to make it work, even if that's assisting them to come to campus. We have a lot of family days. Bring your family. There's this culture around work-life balance that I will put out here doesn't exist, okay? But we can incorporate work-life incorporation. How can you incorporate your family into your work life? And so we do a lot of that. We do a lot of catering to our online employees and also our online students, how to make them feel like they're a part of the campus, even though they're only virtual. And so incorporating things like virtual orientations, virtual homecomings, things just to make them feel a part of the campus, because that group of employees and the students often feel left out. And so it's tough to find that balance, but if employers can just focus a little bit more time, effort, attention, and sometimes money into making your remote employees feel a part of the team is key.
I'll add, just across the 14-county region, I saw, definitely during the height of COVID, there was much more remote work, but I felt most employers in the East Texas region wanted their employees back in the office or in the shop where they, at the place of business. However, I do think remote work is here to stay. And I think if you're going to consider it, you need to think about the technology you need to provide. Are you going to provide that to your employee, or is it going to be up to them? And then the second thing, which might be more important, is do they even have access or affordable access to broadband internet to do what you need them to do from home or remote? That is something we saw across the 14-county region, something ETCOG's working tirelessly on, is to move the broadband needle forward here in East Texas so that more folks can have access that's affordable, whether that's residential or business. So if it's something you're considering, you need to make sure that you're talking to your employees. Like, do they have access? If they don't have the technology that's needed, can you provide it to them? And then, who's going to train them to use it for the platform? At COG, we have Ring Central. Somebody might have Zoom. There's different ones, and if you don't have, you're uploading, and they all have different features. So I think training your employees on how to effectively work remotely is also important. Just expecting them, like, here's your laptop, here's your phone, go, that's not going to work. You're going to have challenges there. So equipping your team and making sure they're trained to use the technology that they're expected to use is very important.
I can definitely reiterate the point of broadband access. Regionally, that's something pretty important that limited a lot of our people from being remote. And in fact, it's still a struggle. We've got some that are on Starlink, fortunately for that. So that's been a big benefit. But broadband access is here locally pretty challenging. So, but remote work, it's definitely here to stay. We were doing some of it even before COVID. So it really, of course, depends on the position. There's some positions, I mean, we're in manufacturing. We have to have welders there in the facility welding. It's simple as that. So there's obviously some positions that you really need to have there. But there's of course, some opportunity for remote work to, but a lot of that depends on the employee as well, and how they work best. We stay very well connected. We utilize Teams, so we're constantly in chats and constantly in communication with our departments and our people that are working remote. We've got people as far away as North Carolina and Arizona. So, but for us, we were able to attract that talent that we weren't able to find, immediately here. So that was great, and we were able to stay connected through technology. But again, a lot of that depends on that person, if they work remotely well or not. And I'll point to myself as that. I mean, I had the opportunity many years ago to work from home, and I would revarnish the kitchen table before. It was not good for me. So I like being in that team environment. I like being there with where everything's getting made and where everything's happening. I like working that way myself better. So recognizing that, that's very possible for that employee too. They may strive and succeed better in that team environment than they would working remote. So really just, having that conversation and basing it upon, what their strengths are and ultimately what they want out of the position as well. So.
I'll just touch from our perspective at the EDC, the whole COVID experience, it allowed us to get out of our shell and look to see what we could outsource for a lesser price than trying to hire it in-house. So we had some cost savings. We also looked at new technology to see what we had a few redundant tasks, and there are services out there. We were able to bring that in just with a subscription service. I know I'm all about employment, but I'm all about higher skilled employment and all about what are we doing to to improve the opportunities for kids growing up and for those who are already in the workforce. By a show of hands out there, what companies or what experience have you had where you had a candidate come in and you said, shouldn't they already know how to do this? Raise your hand if you've experienced that ever. We've looked at and we've seen somewhat of a disconnect between education and business, and that's not just I'm not throwing stones here. I think it goes both ways. Businesses get real busy, and they forget to have this dialogue with those that are educating their workforce, their future workforce. And likewise, educators are being forced to meet all kinds of interesting metrics, and they feel an obligation to do certain things. And engagement with the community isn't necessarily one of those. We've implemented some things here locally, the We Align group, that's Workforce and Education Alignment, to kind of get that dialogue started, and which will kick off into second gear probably this fall. But I guess my question is more along the lines of, from the educator standpoint and from the business standpoint, what do we need to do to release that, to get rid of that friction and have honest dialogue between the two parties? Does that make sense, what I'm trying to ask? What could we do better as a community, as an institution, as a business, to make sure that we're just talking about it? Hey, I need guys that can do A, but you're only producing B. Or, why, how come you never tell me you need guys that produce B, because we're still producing A? Does that make sense? Your feedback is appreciated.
Well, I can't stress enough the importance of advisory boards or advisory councils. We've tried our best to incorporate those into each one of our schools, each one of our academic departments, and they've been pivotal in driving some of the curricular changes, the opportunities that we offer our students, but I don't see that strengthening without that type of input. It's allowed me to sit back and take a look at our different degree plans to say, hey, maybe we should change a few things based on the needs of the employer. I think it's that drive and that need to want it. You have to want it and see that need and feel that need. But those advisory boards have been pivotal to the success of not only the institution, but the workforce development, our students and their opportunities. It's pivotal. Even just, we tend to overlook things as small as job shadowing, just apprenticeship, mentoring. Those opportunities are needed not only to give our students the skills they need earlier, but also to give us more that two-way street of what's needed. When the student actually has the opportunity to intern, to job shadow, to see what the workforce is looking for, then sometimes they can set the demand on the institution or on the employer to say, this is the type of training I need. And so that open communication, that open dialogue is needed. Not being afraid to just step out there and saying, hey, this is what we want, and we can give you what you want, but sometimes just not knowing what that want is. And so I highly encourage businesses to partner with institutions in forming advisory councils or advisory boards, maybe just having a point of contact at the institution as well as at the employer to talk about what some of those emerging trends are for workforce skills, soft skills as well as hard skills. Those type of conversations are needed in order to drive some of the changes that we need in workforce.
I really won't do anything but echo, but I think Russia's, and hats off for the effort, the We Align group has been a major step forward. The short answer is talk. We don't know what we don't know, just like y'all don't. It's one of those things. So if you've got a need that we're not fulfilling in whatever level of education that is, come tell us. That's pretty, we got the soft skills thing. I kind of made a point of that early. But foot stomp those things. Get involved. Nobody's sitting on a golden pedestal anywhere. We all wander into the office same as everybody else every day. So come on in and talk. You're not going to bother anybody. So yeah, chat. That's pretty much it. Communication's key.
Agreed. And again, yeah, hats off to Rush and the We Line group. That's allowed me to come to it, and been fortunate to be involved in some of those and have that conversation. And even though I'm up here on stage today, I came here to learn. So always being open to learn, always just, wanting to have that conversation really can help connect us all better. But the We Align group, man, it's a great avenue for that because it allows that conversation to be had.
I don't want to praise you too much, but I have to agree that, you know, your ability to bring in ISD, higher ed, elected officials, economic developers from a regional perspective, and just really bring all those resources together in a room is key, because once we are having that conversation, we see different pay points, we see different solutions. I have different arrows in my quiver than other folks do, and so it's important to have those conversations, and thank you, Rush, for providing that platform for Marshall here.
Well, there's a lot more to do, and we'd love to include more small businesses in that discussion. I've got major employers in it, but we need your input. If you want to let your ISD know what you're seeing and where you see things that could be improved, let me know. Join our group. There'll be more press on that likely end of September. So, look, we're going to go ahead and take time for questions here. I do want to say a huge thank you to all of you for being here. You're part of economic development in Marshall, Texas right now. Anybody who tells you there's one group, one thing that makes economic development or our community grow is sadly mistaken. So please, we welcome your questions.
Yes, sir. Hi, my name is Sadiq. I am a local journalist with Marshall Messenger. Me and a small group of some community leaders are building a theater company here in Marshall. It's probably going to be one of the biggest theater companies Marshall has seen. We want to make the town more of a film-friendly neighborhood. As we start to grow, we want to figure out ways to be diverse and inclusive. Do you guys have any recommendations on strategies to be more diverse and inclusive?
I mean, I'm going to go back to social media side of it. That's a great side of it for you to tell your story. That's a great side of it to show that you are diverse and inclusive, and show that the type of team that you have right now, even if it's just yourself, these are the type of people that I want to build my team. This is what I'm trying to do here. Being able to tell that story, you're going to attract and find the team that thinks like you and can ultimately achieve the same goal.
So I just comment on that question. Just, you're in the community right now that values that, where leadership values that, diversity and inclusion. And so if you have questions, come see me after. I'm sorry.
What kind of, I'm under the impression that Medco exists to develop economic opportunities, but what kind of services and how do you help existing small businesses?
So traditionally, we've been mainly associated with primary employers. Those are somebody who produce a good or service where the predominance is sold outside the market. It's a kind of an export theory wherein you're bringing money in from the outside to develop your pot rather than move money just between entities within the confines of a city. We offer anything from development loans for new or improved business for expansions, local expansions. We work with no-cost loans. We've worked with grants opportunities. We've worked for site redevelopment. One of the programs, one of our Texas, who was up here earlier, he engaged in our certificate of occupancy bonus program. He took a dilapidated building, literally, that had, he told you earlier, it had grass growing on the first floor, and is turning it into one of the prettiest buildings downtown. Yeah, we'll get behind that, absolutely. We also work with workforce development. We work with all of our partners in the education side and post-secondary to help educate towards the needs that are in demand, generally in demand in high skill. We also work with our regional institutions like the East Texas Council of Governments and Workforce Solutions East Texas to make sure that we're providing venues where like this to where you're getting some information that's maybe you're not hearing locally all the time because there's not a local agent here. There's a number of other resources for small businesses. It's usually from us, it's going to be in the form of some type of monetary or guidance. We like to use our providers like Small Business Development Center if you're trying to create a business plan, because they're already doing it, right? There's no need for us to duplicate what they're doing. But having that connection and being able to push them in that direction for additional guidance, and then they come back to us saying, hey, now I need money to do it, well, then I'll connect you with some of the financial guys. We'll see what that gap is, and what we'll try to do is fill that gap that you may have on a commercially viable loan. Our job is not to replace private sector. Ours is to help promote private investment. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question? I'm happy to discuss more about what we do too, but any other questions?
What Rush and the EDCs do is also refer to my office, because again, I manage several boards and access to financing through the SBA or revolving loan fund so that you can, again, launch or grow your business. And then the several workforce programs that are available. If you've got employees that have, don't have that experience you're looking for, we know that's a gamble for you to hire them. There's a workforce experience program where they're technically an employee of the Texas Workforce Commission and for 6 months, and they cover that salary. And then at the end of that term, if they are a fit for your company, you can then hire them. If they're not, you can try again. That's one example. If you've got maybe a position where you're trying to grow and you need some training, there's on-the-job training that's available that will pay 50 to 75% of that training cost of your employee. Those are real dollars for you. Fidelity bonding, work opportunity tax credits, anywhere from $9,000 to $2,000 in tax credits per employee if it meets the criteria. So again, I think what Rush is saying, he knows the SBDCs, he knows the Council of Governments and the plethora of programs, so be sure to talk with him because he's going to be able to point you in the right direction depending on what your need is at that time.
Additionally, 80% of new jobs come from existing business. A lot of people confuse us with we're only interested in recruitment. No, and perhaps it was at one time. But workforce development and retention and expansion of existing business is a mainstay. So if you're a small business, I'd love to talk to you. You got expansion plans? I'd love to talk to you.
Those are all really good things to know. But I wanted to kind of piggyback off of what you all were talking about earlier. The advisory board, that's also really good to know. Certainly as a business owner, I have a funeral home. Young people to help me with my business is something that I am looking for, certainly through Wiley, TSTC, trying to get new people in to help with my business right now, because a lot of folks that are working for me at this time, they're a bit older, and so they're ready to kind of sit down, and I need to get new people in. So I want to know what if there's a contact or if there's a way the schools can help with the kids that are interested in getting some employment with local businesses such as myself to be able to reach out, and the schools could actually be able to gain some interest with them, maybe whatever they're studying, perhaps to be able to reach out to us to be able to get some gainful employment while they work at school.
I will just applaud you right now because what you just did is what we're requesting. When we know there's a need, it's our job to fill that need. Getting in contact with your institutions, I'll throw myself out there. I used to give my number out in public, but that backfired. So I will see you right after this panel discussion. But what you just did is exactly what we need to happen. We need to know what the needs are. We can definitely train some students for you based on the needs of, in your case, your funeral home. There's always an interest. I tell people there's always an interest. Even when the students don't know there's an interest. We have students all the time that will say, oh, I don't want to do it, and then they intern there, and they're coming back to me the next semester changing their majors just because of their experience. And so what you just did is what we need every small business in here to do. Let us know what you need, what are the changes that are happening at your business, and how we can help you fill those needs. So I applaud you for that.
And honestly, that's as simple as calling our front desk. We're absolutely used to folks calling saying, hey, you got any kids that might want some employment while they're training? Absolutely, many of them. So yeah, simple as that, call the front desk. And I'll give you a card before I leave as well.
I'd ask about internship programs. Ask your educators, ISD, we're 4 colleges inside the city limits. There's a bunch of active audience for internships, right? They need to get a little experience. Great time to try to get them, and if you have them, then and you like to keep them, then it's a lot easier when they're already working for you. So reach out about internship programs with your local colleges and ISD. And I think we are about at a break time, so why don't we take a little 10-minute break, and we'll be right back with our financing section. Thank you very much. I want to thank my panel for being here. Y'all were great. Thanks.